My guest today is Monica H. San Miguel. She is a food and health industry visionary, digital innovator, and author. And she's also the CEO and founder of HueTrition and the author of HueTrition, Healthy and Colorful Eating Made Fun. Monica is a nutrition and wellness expert who is driven to spread the word about healthy eating. She spent more than 18 years in a variety of leadership roles in the food, health, and wellness industries, including a digital marketing and strategy person. She was content. She worked in social media and e-commerce, analytics, customer and integrated marketing, brand management, pretty much you name it. And she has done it. So she's very qualified for this job. She's also a lifelong athlete and played tennis in both the collegiate and professional levels, earning a full athletic scholarship to Texas A&M University, where she earned her nutritional science degree. She earned an MBA in marketing and also completed a PhD in healthcare marketing. So today, Monica and I are going to talk about how to market nutrition and everything that goes along with trying to market healthy products to maybe some reluctant consumers. How do you get them to listen to your messaging? So let's jump right in. All right. Welcome, Monica. I'm so happy to get you on the show. I know how crazy busy you are, so I appreciate you taking time.
Hi, Linda, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, and it's going to be a fun conversation because we have some similarities in our background and the fitness part. Specifically for you, it's I didn't play tennis. I know that was your that was a big part of your life. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into tennis and did it lead to your current business? Like how did that all get woven together?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Linda. So, how I got started in tennis, both of my parents were very active, and my dad owned a gymnastics studio, so I started with gymnastics, and then they joined a club, and for me, they were playing against each other, and I was like the ball girl, and that's how I got started. So it was really just because they were playing against each other. So I thought it would be fun to play.
Oh, my parents did too. They played with each other. They also argued with each other all the time on the tennis court. So it was not
very,
it wasn't
very
fun.
competitive.
Yeah. But you actually made it to the pros.
Yeah, I did. I actually took a year and a half in between my sophomore and junior years in high school, and I was blessed that I was able to go to a tennis academy in Florida and play professional tennis with the real players, do a lot of training. And then eventually I came back and, went back to my junior year in high school, finished that, and then got a full ride to Texas A&M to play for them.
Do you still play at all? Just for fun?
Yeah, I still play, not as much as I used to. But yeah, I still try to play whenever I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about nutrition. How did that come about?
Linda, like as I was mentioning to you the other day, like HueTrition came about just because I grew up in a family that was oriented towards, health and wellness. My dad was a doctor. My mom, also had a biomedical background. And, it was always very central to have produce around the house. There was a lot of focus on that. If I would ask, hey, can I have dessert? There was always, she's like, oh, there's fruit. It was on display, right? And so it stuck with me. And I always viewed, fruits, veggies as really fuel, right, for athletics. And so it stuck with me. And then I went on to school and did a nutritional science degree. And I thought, I would go to med school, but then I realized that there was a lot more that I wanted to do on the preventative side. So I went into, more of the business side of things, the brand management, the food sort of aspects, but I still found that even through my first role and even today, I think there's still such a need for education. And that's why I formed HueTrition. For me, my personal mission is to help people really keep it simple, keep it fun, live more colorful lives. And it doesn't have to be something that you're always, like health and well-being does not have to be something boring or something that you always suffer through.
And that's what's interesting is how, I would have my fitness background for like 20 years. I was, working as a personal trainer. And I think nutrition and fitness are seen as things that either people punish themselves with. Like I know, because I had somebody tell me this once. He said, I ate too much, so now I'm going to work out for an hour. It's like exercise should not be a punishment. And healthy eating should not be like, oh, now I have to eat something that's boring. Or my husband teases me because I'm a pescatarian. Like I eat fish, but I don't eat meat, and I eat a lot of like tofu, and he's always teasing me about it. And I said, I don't. He teases me in a good natured way, but I don't see like how I am, I'm missing out on anything. So, yeah. Do you find that like people see it as a negative?
Absolutely. And I mean, you nail it in the head. Like I used to get certified as a trainer, and I put myself through MBA school training people, right? That's how I started in that. And one of the common thread to your point was like people just thought it was short term. It was a short term goal. Like I have, an event or I have a trip. And it was always, not on the I'm enjoying this, but it's like more of a punishment, or like I have to do this to get to XYZ. And I think the mission of HueTrition is to take it more on like holistic level and to say this is for the long haul. This is not meant to be something that you have to punish yourself. There's balance, right? And you have to have that give and take, and being very cognizant that sometimes life happens, right? And you have to just balance it out.
Now, when I work with people, and you probably found this too, that the biggest challenge is what they eat. And they can work out, but if you're working out and you don't have your diet in order, you're not going to see results. And they would say, well, I'm working out on the treadmill, I'm doing. But if you're eating junk food and you're eating too much, you're not going to see the results that you want. And do you find that it's more like the nutrition part than the exercise part when people are trying to get in shape?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Like you could adjust for activity, right? Obviously. But to your point, a lot of times people get frustrated because they'll go to the gym and they say, like, I'm not getting the results, right? You have to do both. It is a balancing act, but you do get to results faster and in a more, you're able to maintain them longer if you do both, right? And if you are not going to be as active, right, obviously you want to adjust your eating to that, right? But I do think that the component of what goes into what you eat does have a big impact in so many ways that, even if you're not as active, you're able to balance that. But if you go the other way around, I don't think it works the same way.
Yeah. Well, what is nutrition's approach to content creation that is maybe different? Like, how do you separate yourself from all the other companies that are talking about nutrition?
I think, Linda, and you know this too, is like there is so much out there. There's so much confusion for the consumer. There is a lot of things that you shouldn't be doing, right? There's a lot of conflicting messages. But I think net where the opportunity is that there's a lot of, if you read between the lines, it's always kind of like a negative. Like if you don't do this, this is going to happen, or this is bad for you, or this is why we are. And then the headlines of we all know like the statistics of where everything is at. And I think there's an opportunity for copy to be more refreshing and be authentic, right? Like to try to rise above and bring people back to even that nostalgia of like the simpler things, nature, make that connection. I think good copy makes the connection of one-on-one, right? Is speaking to me at that moment, and really getting to the why. Like even when people are saying, oh, I want to lose weight, if you're writing an article on that, like it's not just about like the number of pounds, right? There has to be the underlying reason why that person wants to do that. And I think if the copy can speak to that a little bit, right, to that audience, I think it resonates better. And I think everyone is kind of ready, even post-pandemic, more than ever, to have that refreshing kind of like, don't make me feel bad with the copy, right? Like there's a lot of negative headlines and from a lot of different places. And I think there's an opportunity for copy to really bring it back to be like, let's bring it to the basics. Let's feel good. Let's bring back the joy, the natural, something that connects and makes people feel like it's more doable, like if they have a goal, and that there is support out there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing with food too is that there's such an emotional connection to it. I mean, we grew up with certain foods. We relate food. I mean, every celebration involves food. So somebody trying to lose weight has all these struggles with, dealing with social cues and going to parties, and especially, around the holidays. And there's so much there that, like, I wrote something on LinkedIn about, just the psychology behind restaurant menus. And I had found this article about it and I broke it down. And one of them is they found that when an item was listed as like chicken soup versus, Sally's chicken soup or mother's chicken, something like that made it kind of homey, that sold more than just having the name of the product, because people related it to something that was like kind of an emotional connection. Do you find that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think food is so powerful. It's such an emotional, like it's a relationship, right? And I think there is an opportunity there, right? To your point, like it not just on menu, and obviously that sells more because it speaks to like maybe it brings up something from memory. I was with my grandmother, and then they connected the soup, and all of a sudden it sounded better, right? But also going beyond that, the relationship with food is so important. And I think that's something that gets missed a lot of times in this day and age, with all this, like, hey, take the supplement or do this, do that. But going deeper is like, that's a relationship that is going to shape your health for the rest of your life. Like if there's one relationship that matters, like I think we don't think of it that way. A lot of times we think very, the messaging is very transactional, right? Like, okay, this is the nutrients, or this is you're going above calories. But I think that emotional connection, and I think your point on being a social, cultural community, way to bridge that gap. I think food is so powerful, and if we focus more on that and copy, to your point, I think that's part of the reason why we have some of the statistics we have. And obviously there's other issues shaping it. But one of them, I do believe that is a little bit different in the US than in other countries, is that, we've lost a little bit of that joy in food, the culture, the, community, celebration, right? To your point, if somebody's trying to lose weight and they're going to the restaurant, in their mind, I mean, I'm, counsel people that they're doing this, they have this kind of struggle in their mind, right? They want to enjoy it with their family, but at the same time, they're thinking, oh my gosh, if I eat this. And I think my view on it is like, you should eat it. Like you should enjoy that precious time. And then how do you balance afterwards? But even that, right? I think that there's a lot of opportunity for copy to relate to that for people.
And as far as like weight loss too, what I always told my clients, my personal training clients, is if you are making a change that you can't do for the rest of your life, you're not going to stick with it. And it's funny because there's this woman at my gym. She went on a pretty strict diet last year, and I could tell she was losing a lot of weight. And I asked her, I said, and it's a touchy thing because you don't know, but I knew she lost a lot. I mean, it's obvious. And she told me she lost 70 pounds. And wow. Now I see that she's gained it all back, and and I'm thinking to myself how, she didn't make any permanent changes, because I know she was on some specific diet, and that only lasts so long, then you can't go back to how you were eating. And it's a tough thing, because you always hear this, like you can quit smoking, you can quit drinking, but you can't quit eating. So, you can't just cut that out, even temporarily, out of your life. And that's what makes it so hard, to moderate.
Yeah. And I think the copy, to your point, the opportunities to really emphasize that this is a long-term deal, right? To your point, whether you have a goal to lose weight or you have other goals, I think people, because of everything that's going on, is we want everything instantly, right? It's like instant, like you want to lose it now, even though it took years and years. And having that, the copy speak to like, it's okay, right? To feel this way. And to your point, if it's not something that's sustainable in the sense that you can keep up with it, then it's not going to last, right? So is it better to be at a weight, like at a weight that you can feel the energy, you feel good, that you don't feel restricted, like for your whole mental health, than to be, trying to be at a weight that where you're. I mean, I've seen people like the range of like some people really suffering, like they feel like they ate one thing and then there's this mind thing goes on. So I think that, to your point, how do we bring that to life in copy, right? For people to be like, you know what? Yes, this is a long-term deal. Even if you're on any other medications, treatment, whatever it may be, but still that your relationship with food needs to be, it's every day, to your point. You can't quit it. Like you can't stop it, right? You have to eat to survive. So how do you learn to really use food as your nourishment truly, right? Not something you suffer, but something that you enjoy, and finding those foods and finding those dishes and finding those occasions that actually make you feel good and slow down and really enjoy the food. That's the other thing, right? Like when people are hurrying and just like doing it very transactionally and you're just eating and people are eating in the car, like that's not thinking about, that's just right there, right? It has no long-term sort of view. So I think if we can bring that back in the copy and say, wait a minute, right? How does it make you feel, right? If you just slow down a little bit, maybe you would enjoy it. Maybe you would eat less, right? Because you would let your body, feel like a little, more full. There's a lot of little tricks. Yeah. I think honestly, there has to be more copy that speaks to the relationship to food, maybe not specific words, but that gets people to think about that, right? And how do they do that for them, that works for them, that is sustainable for them? Not everyone is the same. So each person has to find their own balance, right? I think that's the copy that we need more of.
I think a lot of it too is, I remember once interviewing someone for an article, and the article was for an alternative medicine magazine, and it was about eating gluten-free and wheat-free, whatever it was. It was vegetarian, vegan. It was vegan and gluten-free, and it was like everything. And I remember talking to this one woman. I said, "What, how do you create a menu, or how do you eat when you can't have all this stuff?" And she said, "I don't see it like that." She said, "I'm looking at everything I can have. I can have fruits and vegetables. There's no gluten in that. And she started naming all the foods. And I think that is the approach, is like, look at here, you can have all of this. Stop looking at what you can't do. And that goes with anything like health oriented, stop looking at it in the negative and look at what you can have. Like,
Yeah, definitely. Exactly, Linda. I mean, I think that it's like we hear enough what we can't do, right? Like we can't eat this. You shouldn't have that. You should decrease this. Like, so shifting it like a little bit to your point of like, what can I have? And imagine, and then kind of emphasizing all the things that are do's more than the don'ts. I think we have enough of the don'ts, and don't get me wrong. Yeah, we need to be watching for those things. But I think if you want the copy to be refreshing, I think the goal for that kind of copy would be that the reader walks away feeling better, right? Not feeling bad about themselves, not more stress, right? But actually they took a little nugget of something that is actionable for them in their lives, that they are like, you know what? I feel like there's a little glimpse of hope. I can do this. And if they can just walk away from reading that, feeling that way, I think that's success in the copy.
It's also understanding where they're coming from. I mean, you're not going to take somebody who lives a diet of fast food and get them to completely flip their diet. I mean, it's just a gradual, like, let's add a vegetable to that meal, but let's keep that like until that really holds. Don't make another change. Just don't, because that's what, like the New Year's thing. people are like, okay, I haven't been to the gym in 6 months, but I'm going to work out every day. That's a recipe for disaster. So you go in, you sprain something and you go, see, it just doesn't work for me. And then they don't go back. And it's the same with eating, and so it's like, let's make a small change and let's make it permanent. And then we'll add to that. I think it's called habit stacking. Wasn't there a term? Somebody
Yeah,
wrote a
I
book
think
about
there
that.
was something like that. I would say like the little wins, right? So the little wins each day or in that occasion, right? To your point, looking for the lower hanging fruit of like saying, if you just, like tweak, eat this versus that, or, sometimes it's just tricks. Like if you're at dinner, like you still want to share your dessert, share it with more people. If you, cut your dinner, like you want to take half home, right? I mean, those are tricks that you're still enjoying it, savoring it. And then you have, another meal out of it. That's easy, right? To do. It's just those little things that still allow you to have the enjoyment. And another thing is that if you're going to go for it, then just go for it. I see a lot of times people go, oh my God, I had cake. So I had cake. So now everything is ruined, right? So they
Right.
take that occasion, that particular moment of, I ate cake today, to then say, oh my God, everything is ruined because the day is ruined, because tomorrow is going to be ruined because I already had cake today. But that's not so, like, why don't you enjoy the cake, right? Savor
Right.
it. And then the next meal is a whole other thing. And
Yeah.
tomorrow is a whole other day. I think those, having little goals and little wins in a day. And then it's like an analogy from tennis. I'll bring it. Like and it could apply to here. When you're playing tennis, if you're focused on the shot that you just missed, right? You just missed the shot, you get mad, you get frustrated, and then it's in your head. Like, the shot is in there. And like, you're thinking about the last shot. Well, you're going to miss potentially the next shot and the next shot if you get in your head and you don't clear that and say, okay, maybe my swing was not on time, whatever, maybe you put it away, say, fine, right? You learn from it and then just move on. Same thing with the cake. Whether, like, if you enjoyed it, right? It's not a loss. You enjoyed it, then you just balance it out and just move on. It's not for you to feel bad about it.
Right.
And I think there's so much of that, right? And then social eating, people like, there's, people like worry about what other people are going to say or what they're like, there's so much to it, right? That almost you've got to give yourself permission to enjoy food, right?
Yeah.
To focus on food, enjoy food, and is not a bad thing if you enjoyed it. Obviously moderation applies, but I think in general, there's ways to balance.
I don't know if do you know I used to own a bakery, that I was a pastry chef like years and years ago?
No, I didn't. I did not know that, Linda. How cool. I would love to have a coffee shop bakery. That's cool.
Yeah, I have a bachelor's in foods and nutrition, and people are like, is there a degree for that? That's what I call it. I don't know what it was called in school, but I have a bachelor's degree. And right after college, I went to work for a test kitchen where we developed recipes. And so I worked for like some of our biggest clients were like, at the time it was General Foods. I think they were bought out by Kraft. I don't know, but I did all kinds of weird, like I worked for Liam Perrins and under this small company. And then I found I love the artistry of pastries. And I worked with a pastry chef from New York City, and I got hooked. And so I ended up breaking away from the company and starting a bakery. And then I started studying with pastry chefs. And my thing has always been to, and eventually the fitness thing kind of overrid that, that whole thing. But I always made things, it was like a conflict there, but I always did everything from scratch. And even to this day, I say, listen, if you're going to have a piece of cake, make it a really good piece. Like, don't have something from the grocery store that's full of air, that's just, full of chemicals. Get a really good dessert and enjoy it. And that's what I used to make. I got out of the business. One of the reasons is because I was getting really popular, and I just couldn't scale up, and and a lot of other personal things were happening in my life. And so I dropped it. But my buttercreams were from butter. My cake was from scratch. I didn't use mixes in anything. And I think that when you use like that as a, you want to have quality food and quality. So it's worth the calories, and then you just move on, and don't sulk about it.
It exactly is the ingredients, right? To your point, it's like what you would make. And I think that's great that I did not know that. So that's awesome. I'm sure you still bake at some point and it's amazing. But I think that the ingredients matter too, to your point. Not just, you in cakes, but in anything, right? So really focusing on the simplicity of, having less number of ingredients on your nutritional facts, but also at home, just keeping it simple, keeping it with good ingredients. I think that's always a good, guidance for people without having to necessarily count calories, right? To just say, I had a good ingredients that were used for this meal. I think that's key. But
the last time I baked was cornbread during COVID, because I don't really bake that much anymore because I don't want to have those calories. But cornbread, and I made a lot of it, and so now I won't make it anymore because it reminds me of COVID. But I said to my
you need to make something else.
It's so easy to do. Like, I go into the store and I see they're selling like a square of cornbread in the deli section for like $4. I'm like, what in the world? This is so crazy.
Or more, yeah.
It's
or more than that. Yeah, it's really up there. Yeah. But do you find it like baking or cooking is also like kind of therapeutic?
Yeah.
Like the process of it?
Yeah.
Like if you slow down?
Yeah. Bread baking.
Yeah. Like the whole process of baking, I think it's so relaxing. I think anyway, I'm no baker or chef, but like, I think it does have that effect. Even, I've thought about like when you're like just cutting like your fruits and veggies or making a salad or doing your meal prepping, right? I think there's something to that when you go to the farmer's market or you go to the grocery store and you get like nice colors, nice ingredients, and like you're like just cutting it. It's like almost like it has this, I don't know if there's any studies, but it has this like positive effect on your mood. I think like, to just feel better, like you're nourishing, like you're prepping to nourish your body or your family. I think that there's something to that. I don't know if there's a study, maybe there's a study, but like I think there's something.
Yeah.
About that.
When I had my personal training business, I worked with a woman whose husband was a gastroenterologist, and she had, at the time, her son was 3 or 4 years old. And she would make a game out of cutting up zucchini and vegetables. And, she says he would, cut them up with her and they would prep everything together. And he was, he would eat vegetables and he drank water, he didn't drink soda. And she says, I never pushed him into any of this stuff. It's just, this is what he got involved in, and he liked it and he's part of it. So that's what you're saying is that's another version of it. You go to the farmer's market.
Yeah, it's a great way. Yeah, it's a great way to really share with your family, significant other, et cetera. I think it's a great activity. I do think, without going on a tangent, like getting in the kitchen with kids, right? Like to have the basic skills. I think that's important. I think that it's fun too. And it's a skill, right? For life, but you don't have to be a chef. But you do have to have some basic skills of knowing, right? What you need, from, your grocery shopping and how to take care of yourself. I was thinking the other day, like, I think they need to bring back, like the home econ, like in schools, right? There should be a mandatory class for K through 12 in which kids have to take the basics, right? I see a great movement towards having the garden and for kids to know that. And if you layer that with like class, like an actual class, just like they have health class. Well, to me, health classes should include like, how do you nourish your body? Not just like, don't do this and that, but actually, how do you take care of your body? I think because it has that educational component, but I think it also improves like how you feel, right? When you're doing that. So I think that holistic, anyway, I'm for that.
Yeah. And just one last question. So as far as like marketing to, like for a company that is marketing any kind of health brand, like, do you have any tips on, and we talked about several of them, but how do you get more engagement from an audience when you're selling a product or a service that has more to do with like health and like what we've been talking about?
Yeah, and it's so personal, right, to the consumer. So from the reasons we talked, I think one of the key things is to be authentic, right? Like people want to be able to trust you before they buy from you, right? So I see a lot of people that are just like buy from me, right? You can't really do that. I think people need to see you as a trustworthy source. And you need to like kind of give them that through the copy and everything that you're doing. And once they trust you, I think it's a lot easier to get somebody to buy whatever it is that you're offering because they see you as authentic. There's so much non-authentic out there in general, but also in health and wellness, right? Or very like short-sighted, like buy this and that's it. If you can rise above that and be like, no, I am trying to really understand the why, what you're trying to do, what you are about, and then write the copy and the offering in a way that it comes through as like you're the real deal and it's trustworthy. I think that is a good way to start.
It's interesting because you say that about social media. I get every time I get on like a Facebook and I lurk, I don't really post anything, but all the ads for exercises that I'm looking at this is, oh, get rid of your abs by doing this. And I'm looking at saying that is not going to do anything, or it's working a whole different muscle. People don't know. And they're going to buy this product or this program and they're going to wonder why they're not getting results, And so, yeah, you really need to know what your audience and how, it's about educating, so much of it, which is what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
you gave me a lot of links I'm going to include in the show notes for how people can reach you. Is there any one in particular where you can be reached most easily, or people can find out more about nutrition?
People can go to our website, HueTrition.com. That's HueTrition.com, as in Hue for color, Trition for nutrition. And you could also email me, Monica@HueTrition.com. But you can also follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, we're Facebook, Instagram.
YouTube. You have a lot of
YouTube, all of those. We have a lot of tips that people can just access to for health and wellness. And we have our Hue blog as well on the website for tips and tricks and recipes and ideas.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Monica. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Linda. It was great being here.